Hey guys, this is the depot load explanation. So first of all, what the depot load is referring to is you go and play depot one time, you just load it up once, and that changes the settings, the level settings on Bunker 1, Silo, and Frigate. It changes the settings because every level has different settings for like draw distance and sky and like all these different things. And Bunker 1, Silo, and Frigate, for some reason they don't have any actual settings attached to them. Like the developers never made settings for them. So what happens is, since it doesn't have any specific settings, it just defaults to max settings. So it's like, it'll render an object from as far away as possible. I think caverns is like max settings, at least for that specific thing. But yeah, so like Bunker 1, Silo, Frigate, if you just start up your game and you load up Bunker 1, you're going to have the most maximum draw distance for objects and for guards. So Depot has the shortest draw distance for objects, and Surface 2 has the shortest draw distance for, this is like for rendering, not for loading, but for rendering. Surface 2 is the shortest draw distance for guards. And yeah, so even though Bunker 1, Silo, and Frigate have, they don't have settings attached and they default to max settings, if you play a different level, if you load up a different level first and then play one of those levels, it actually changes, like, for the whole time that you're playing. Let's say you loaded up Depot and then you play Bunker 1 for like 5 hours straight. As long as you don't go and play any level that isn't Bunker 1, Silo, or Frigate, it'll keep holding on to the settings from Depot. And so yeah, Depot is like, draw distance for objects, and objects seems to be the more important thing, at least with, my testing and all that. And here we actually have Tolos made a thing going into like lag settings. This is analysis of lag in GoldenEye. So it's talking about like how different settings can affect lag or don't affect lag. So here's section 5, environment. A comparison was made between different environment settings with neutral look. The results are probably not so useful. I disagree with this, because it goes on to say, there is clearly a good range of environment settings which happen to cut off level geometry through fog. There is a bad group of environment settings where level geometry is fully rendered. And then there's a small middle group in between the two where some but not all of level geometry is too far away to be rendered. The most useful thing that can be said is that a shorter cutoff for renders distance is better. So there's a little chart going in, so yeah, lower is better. So basically that should say that the depot load is better. And for right now, Callie got Bunker 1 16 with the depot load, which I do think it helps a lot with Bunker 1 agent. It's mainly just the big room, but I'll show you what's going on there in a moment. And then I got Silo Agent 100 with the depot load. Everyone else who has gotten Bunker 1 records or Bunker 1 times and Silo times, we don't know what they used. You can assume that they probably just had max settings, but many times people level hop. So sometimes, like for instance, Ace, he goes and just plays a run of Depot for fun, like tons of times. And I used to do that too. But yeah, so Ace just, loads up Depot, he goes for like a warp one time, or goes for like I don't know, maybe he goes for 26 sometime, I don't know. He just loads it up for fun sometimes, before even knowing about this whole thing. And then he goes back to playing whatever he's playing, and that might be Silo, right? So there are some players that might have used Depot load for Silo, but we're not sure. But yeah, so you could probably honestly actually watch a run and potentially see the difference that you could potentially suss out, especially for Silo. You might be able to suss out if they use the depot load or not. But either way, that's besides the point. It's just like basically we know that there's been a couple runs where people have used it, and they swear, you know, these are top players, myself and Callie. We swear that it does help. And now there is some proof saying that it should help, you know, like it's not just a theory anymore. Now it's like actually applicably lowers lag. So not only saving a bit of time, but also just making things easier. Because it's the lower the lag there is, the easier it is to play. You know, it's easy to play frame perfect. Whether you're a top player or a bad player, like having lower lag just makes it a lot easier. And yeah, so now let me just explain to you. Let me show you exactly what's going on here. I'm just gonna turn on invisible so that no one fucks with me. So I just turned on my system. I just restarted my system. So this should have max settings. By the way, this is a little bit besides the point, but full screen, widescreen, and cinema all have different settings as well. Full screen has like it'll go from the farthest away. So full screen actually is. They say it's less lag. I mean, they say that there's no difference between full screen and widescreen and cinema. Like that's what Tolos has kind of proved in some aspects. But maybe this does change things a little bit. Like when you take into account this. But basically, I'm on widescreen right now. So you can see these crates from far away. Right? Very far away. Like if I'm all the way over here, like I can still see this crate. And then over here, you could even see this crate over here and this table. You can see that all the way from back here in the camera. Right? So just put that in your memory real quick, or since you're watching on YouTube, you could just rewind the video in a moment here. So you can see how far away you can see these objects, right? Now let's load up Depot real quick, and I'll show you what happens. Because the results may shock you. But yeah, so basically for the past little while, since this has been known, some of the testers and stuff, they haven't been sure if this is actually a time save. You know, because it is hard to prove. Like, the theories could go either way. Like, maybe when you get closer to something and render it, maybe that causes more lag than when you just have it rendered already from the start. Or, you know, there are different things like that, right? There could be theories. But either way, I'm pretty sure that now it's been more or less proved. And there's a lot of top players that do think that it's helpful. So see this big room? Look, where'd the crates go? Oh, here they are. Look at that. Look, the table is not even there. Look at that table. And then look, there's nothing in here. Until you get all the way to here. And then look, the camera is not until you get all the way here. But once again, just to remind you, this is not deloading it. Like, see, I can't see the camera. Wow, sniped. I can still shoot it. It still is there, but it's not rendered. And so it's been just a theory of like, oh, it helps. Sub-anomaly. Oh, like, it's a theory, you know. Okay, well, it sounds good to have it not rendered. Because, like, the reason why we use look down is to, like, deload objects. And maybe de-render them as well. But, yeah, you know, deloading the objects, yeah, it's proven to make the game run faster. But now it's pretty much proven that de-rendering them also helps. And you could see how much of a difference this is making. So if like imagine in a speed run, because you can't just play Bunker 1 like this, right? Like you're gonna have to look planar just to snap a photo of this. And then once you do that, you can't look like down a whole lot because, you know, if you look down a certain amount, it doesn't allow you to pick up objects. I'll show you when it does allow me to pick it up. Okay, so it's like right here where I could pick it up. So even if, and this is like super YOLO. Yeah, so even if I'm like here and picking it up, like probably still would be like rendering these objects if it was on max settings. So yeah, pretty much like you can only look down a certain amount here. And in my opinion and Callie's opinion, you know, these are like kind of field-based things where some people are like, oh, it's just confirmation bias or this and that, and some people actually take top players' opinions seriously, you know. We really think that it does help. Like, it helps the movement, you know. Like, it feels like so insanely laggy when you do this with when you do the big room with like max settings. It's like, you know, there's an alarm going off. There's all this lag already, and then because there's like guards, you know, extra guards, and then you got like all these objects, right? Like this doesn't load until I get to here, which is really useful because like that's mainly where you have to be looking up. Like by the time you're hitting the slap, once you hit it, then you can look down, right? And you can reduce lag in other ways, and you're good to go. But going to here, you pretty much have to be using a certain amount of lookup. And yeah, so that's that on Bunker 1. Sure, it's a short stage, but it does just make the big room, like the whole Bunker 1 for like 16 especially, it's all in the big room. And even for noobs trying to get 17, it's just like, it's so much easier to play with the lower lag. So now I'll show you what happens on Silo. On Silo, we got objects like this crate, which since I'm looking down this room, like this is still loading this room, right? Even though it's behind the wall, this thing would still be loaded. Like that crate would still be like rendered right now. But if I'm using like this, you kind of have to like just take my word for it, I guess. But using the depot load, it renders, you know, much closer once you get like much closer to it. So it's like off. It's not being rendered for a longer period of time, and that's like the same thing with like, you know, this crate. This crate over here, right here. See these barrels? Look at these barrels. You don't see the barrels until you get to here. So this one you can actually, you know, I can actually show you. But yeah, like, you know, so all of this stuff really. If you had max settings, that stuff would still, you'd still be able to see it like all the way from here. Like all the way from, as soon as you like going over here, like all that stuff would be rendered. So yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of objects on Silo that do de-render. Whereas on Frigate, there's not really that much going on. I'll just show you guys Frigate really quick, because this is on depot load. So I'll just show you this really quick, and then I'll show you Silo without the depot load. So like on Frigate, there's like this thing that de-renders. But apart from that, like most everything else doesn't really de-render. That's why, oh, that's kind of weird. I guess like the door kind of does. That's wild. Like I never noticed that actually. The blue sky, but yeah, but there's just a lot less objects that are actually affected by this. So that's why the theory on this level, at least to me, is maybe using the Surface 2 load, because maybe de-rendering guards, like there's a lot of guards and there's barely any objects that are de-rendering. So maybe de-rendering the guards is the better play. That's like the theory for me. See how like none of these things de-render? Like that should be de-rendered by now, if it was to. Maybe the chair, but no, you can just see that this is too close quarters. By the time you actually open up doors and you get to areas, like you're already going to be rendering them anyways. So like there's just, everything is too close quarters to actually be impactful in a speedrun. There's just like a couple doors and like that one thing by the bug. I mean by like the front of the boat. But yeah, so like there's not really enough stuff that's de-rendering, because by the time you're actually going to a room to load it, it's probably just gonna be on screen anyways. It's gonna be, yeah, it's just gonna be rendered even with the depot load. So like the theory, at least to me, is to just use the Surface 2 load on Frigate and hope that it helps, because either way it doesn't hurt. We know it doesn't hurt, and you know, just hope that it helps. You can just do whatever you want on Frigate. Like, I usually just don't care at all what I do on Frigate. But that's for another day to, you know, to prove the guard thing and all that, because they haven't really thought about the guards too much yet. They mainly just talk about the objects. But yeah, so now let's just go into caverns, just to show you like caverns, for instance, is a really bad level to play first. There's a lot of other settings that don't really affect anything. It doesn't really matter. Oops. So here's Silo. So I'll just show you this really quick, and then I'll end the video. See, so some of the stuff is hard to show, just because it's around the corner. Like, you'd have to like do some like task tools to like just kind of show, like, you know, like remove the wall or something, or see through the wall. See how you can see these barrels from all the way back here? And that's why I'm saying, like, this is different. This is not as close quarters as Frigate. Like, it seems close quarters in the sense that like you're going through small hallways. But this is like this whole thing all the way over here. This is like an entire room. So like, as soon as you know, are over here, you're loading like this entire room essentially. But it's far enough away to where the depot load actually can affect this sort of a thing. So you can see, look at these barrels. You can see them from all the way over here. It was like all the way over here where it started showing up on the depot load. So you can just kind of extrapolate that this thing would also, you know, this stuff would also be rendering, like if I'm on max settings. So yeah, that's basically the depot load. It's more about just like that. We just like to call it the depot load. I don't know. It's probably a better word you could use for it, but you know, it's just draw distance, you know, aka render distance. Messing with the level loading. There's another way that we've used that for a while now, or at least known about for a while now, which is like loading a certain level before playing Frigate with 2.3, because it allows you to like have some objects loaded but not other objects loaded. And this is loaded, not rendered. So, and that allows you to shoot in the cutscene and like actually, you know, hit hostage takers and stuff. So that's how we do the 2.3 strat, is we abuse that. But now, you know, for the past year or two, we've been thinking about like, how can we use this for mainly Bunker 1 Agent and Silo. The reason why I don't say Bunker 1 SA and 00 is because you really don't need to worry about lag so much on Bunker 1. Like, you're not trying to save, like, you know, like precious frames, and you don't need like super low lag, you know, like it's already pretty low lag. Like, it's just Bunker 1 Agent that's like crazy laggy, because it's, you know, you got like the alarm guards going to the door, you got extra guards, you got like fast movement, but like in this big laggy room, you know, that's a lot more. Like, you're actually trying to eke those frames. Even if it's a short level, you're really trying to eke those frames. Whereas Bunker 1 SA, I mean, because also it should be noted that the cameras don't load till like, or they don't render till you're really close to them, which could be off-putting to some people. For some people, they wouldn't give a shit, honestly. It's like, you're just shooting at an area anyways. If you're playing YOLO, you're not aiming at cameras. You're just shooting near them and hoping that they blow up. So depending on how YOLO you're playing it, you might be like, hey, maybe this could help with a little bit of lag. But if you're like actually like playing it like, you know, a little slower, a little bit more like trying to precisely aim at stuff, like, you might want to be able to see it for sure. So it also can help you in the sense that, like, knowing this information can help. You can play on widescreen, and you can see cams from far away if you know which levels to load. Like, you might want to load a different level that has further draw distance, or just start it up fresh. And that way you can play on widescreen or even cinema if you prefer, and you can still see the cams from far away. Because when I used to play, you know, Bunker 1 SA like a few years ago, I remember randomly I would level hop a little bit, and next thing you know, like I can't see the cameras until I get really close to them, and I would just be like, "What's going on here?" You know, because like widescreen, once again, widescreen has a shorter draw distance just inherently. It has its own settings, and so full screen's got the best for that. So it would kind of force me to use full screen or to like restart my console and then like use widescreen. Like I didn't know about all this stuff. No one really knew about it. So yeah, it's just an interesting thing. You know, now you know how to use it to save time, to make it easier for lag, for like some of these levels, but you also know how to see cameras from far away when you want to play Bunker 1, SA, and Double O. So should be helpful just to have this information out there regardless. You know, you might believe in it, you might think it's bogus, but it's becoming more, you know, increasingly clear that it is a help. Who knows if it saves 1 frame or 10 frames on silo? You know, like who knows? I think it makes the level like a lot easier to play, and that's the more important thing. Even if it's placebo, I don't think it's placebo, but it makes things easier. It makes the music more consistent, less like just wild and out there, and especially if you're playing different levels, hopping around and then playing silo, like you can have weird runs that just the music doesn't make sense to you. You know, when you're using music for like music cues, and you're consistent at the level, like sometimes the music won't make sense. But if you're always using the depot load, the music will be very, very consistent because you're always using the same thing. So yeah, hope that helps. Been kind of a long video to explain this, but I wanted to get everything out there. And yeah, cheers.